started. The name of our webinar today is Meet Your Regional Representatives. And with that, you are going to meet our 5 current regional representatives, and I am going to let them take it over from here. Again, ladies, if you want to mute your line, it's *6. To unmute is *7. So with that, Gayla, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Gayla Rawlinson Maynard. I have worked with the Grant Professional Association, maybe 13 years now, in various capacities as a volunteer. I've been a regional rep for a few years now for Region 5, which includes Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Kansas, Arkansas. Make sure I didn't forget anybody. Let me look at my list. Let's see. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Yes, so I had them all. So I covered that area. So I just want to kind of give you that information. I'm actually a recent Grant Professional certified, nationally certified by GPC, and I am the director of the Center for Grants Development here in Houston at the Harris County Department of Education. So I just want to give you a little bit about myself. What we're going to do today is, Barb mentioned that we'll each be introducing ourselves when we get to kind of our topic area. What we're really wanting to do is kind of let you know about us, know a little bit about, what's going on within your chapters that's working for you and those things that may not, to get your input, to kind of draw you out and kind of help us know how we can help you. We know there's no magic formula. There's no one way to make things happen within the chapters, but there were some areas that were presented to us through the survey that was sent out to chapter leadership that we're going to try to cover, and maybe we can get some insights as to how some things have worked for other chapters. And then, and sometimes it's kind of trying to experiment with things that have worked with other chapters that are similar to your chapters. Also looking for a way that we can kind of, and I always call them like proven practices that I've worked with some of the chapters. Now, of course, understanding that each region looks a bit different, whether it's urban, rural, long distances. We all know that. We have an understanding of that. And then kind of looking for our framework is how we can kind of continue these conversations, and once again, how we can help support you and what you're doing, as regional reps, from chapter development to all the way to, succession planning as well. And that's where I'll kind of turn it over to Jody to talk about leadership development and succession. Then y'all might hear me kind of chime in every once in a while as well. So thank you. Jody?
Jody, it's *7 to unmute your line.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, I didn't have it on mute, so that was strange. But so did you guys hear anything I just said?
No, this is the first we've heard you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute. So I was just introducing myself. And I'm the regional rep for Region 6, which includes Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky, Delaware, and sometimes Washington, D.C. I've been the regional rep for almost since it began, I think. And I've been involved with GPA since its early days. I'm actually a legacy member. I was a member back in 1999 or 98 when it first started. So it's been a great experience working with GPA and filling various roles within the organization. So today I'm going to talk to you about leadership development and succession. And the idea of this call is to hear from our members and the chapter leaders and see what they're doing, so we can share ideas and practices, share best practices. So does anybody on the call want to talk about leadership succession and anything they do for that?
And again, it's *7 to unmute your line in order to talk. Or if you put it in the chat box, I can share it with the regional reps as well.
Okay, well.
Hi, this is Carolyn with Southern Arizona Chapter. And just really quickly, one thing we did that's really easy, but it really helped things be seamless for us, is you can only serve, I believe it's 2 years in a position, but we overlapped a position so that it wasn't all new people all at once. We kept a person who was there in the past, and then she helped us with any questions we had and helped our transition be much more smooth.
So they were staggered.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
We had 3 new positions, and we made sure that we kept one person from the prior leadership, and she really helped us as we transitioned over.
Mhm. So. That's a really good idea.
Nothing groundbreaking, but it really helps us a lot.
Mhm.
Hey, this is Arthur from Portland. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. I don't know if this is standard practice, but we keep the past president on the executive leadership team on the which helps us provide continuity, and that's the official role. We've also effectively kept the past president involved, who was reporting. And then Susan Jordan was the past president, and that's not as much of a succession planning, I guess, but it really has helped us to both with continuity and really kind of building strategically over the years.
Right, and that way the new people coming in have somebody to ask about history and, see how it was done in the past. So that actually makes a lot of sense. I know even the national board does that.
This is Heather, and although I'm one of the regional reps, I'm going to talk about what the Arizona Founding Chapter has done. And so what we're trying to actually do this year is sort of create, I don't want to say job descriptions necessarily, I mean that is kind of in there, but also sort of like a calendar or a list of things that are done every year that we can't forget. I'm the treasurer of that chapter, so there's like a list of when do I need to update with our website, when do I need to make sure that certain things are paid. So it's kind of like an ongoing list, as well as a job description that says, as the treasurer, you're responsible for this, as whatever the position may be.
When did you start doing that?
Well, I became treasurer last year, so I created mine basically as soon as I started. And then we had, for our chairs, like marketing chair and things like that, we did that. I'm guessing I'm trying to think, it was at the end of last year. So it's all still very new to our chapter, but I know that it's certainly going to help, when we start getting new things in. So.
Right. Okay, very interesting. And what about, has anybody had experiences with like founder syndrome, which is when maybe the original group who started the chapter doesn't want to leave or says it's always been done this way? How have you dealt with that situation?
This is Ann in Charleston, and Jody, you've been to visit us.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Ann. How are you?
How are you? You don't want to be here today. It's hotter than Florida, I think. But we have had that struggle. We're a small chapter, and we only have about 21 members. And getting people to step up to succession is a challenge.
Right.
And so we know there are plenty of people writing grants. And we've even got some competing associations formed locally, and it's just getting people to join GPA and see the value of doing that.
So are you going to stay on as president, Anne?
Well, yes. I think at least for the next year, we are really trying to put, even though we've been around since 2008, we're kind of a phoenix chapter because we've had to arise again. And I was treasurer before and stepped up to president, but would really like to see some succession, and started talking about that in the in-person meeting in March. But we're just spread across the whole state, and that makes a hard geographic area to cover. That one meeting we had 5 no-shows the day of, so
right.
That can make it tough.
This is Stacy. I don't know if anyone can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was having a challenge here with my phone. I wanted to say that I like to hear the affirmations that there's other chapters doing the same things, like with the officer job descriptions, and then also the calendar. That was something that we started doing this last year. And then another thing that we're doing is we created a Dropbox, and so the different roles or the different tasks, like we keep our minutes, our agenda, budget, all the documents, so that whenever there's a transition to a new person, then they can just be added to the Dropbox, and then they have those resources there. So that way we're not having to keep a paper trail, so to speak. And then the continuity of the support of the past president, I like that as well, and we try to do that too. And but I was interested to see if anybody did the succession plan when it's a committee member that moves up to a leadership role.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and getting your committee leaders to step up and take on more responsibility.
Is there anyone that does that?
This is Heather again. I don't know, I guess we've just kind of done the pressure thing, so there's really no plan. Just pressure. So I don't know if that's beneficial or not, but that's what we do.
Hey, whatever works. All right, well, before we move on to our next topic, does anybody else have anything they want to add?
Mark in Kansas City.
Hi, Mark.
Hello. I know one thing we do. I don't know whether it's really succession planning or not. The Dropbox idea is good. What we are trying to get our committee. I'm chapter president this year, hopefully the last year. We actually, and Barb, you can chime in if I'm incorrect. I mean, we are starting to move a lot of our documents up onto the GPA website, because doesn't each chapter have a certain place where they can put that kind of stuff? So that way you really don't have to have a separate Dropbox, and as long as you're a member, you can access it and blah 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 blah. So I'll put in a plug for that. One thing we do, and whether it's you call it leadership succession or not, is that when we start a new board year, or when we do board of directors elections, we just elect board members. We don't elect president, vice president, secretary as a chapter. But once the board members are elected, the first board meeting of the year, then the board decides who's the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and then each board member or each committee is headed by a board member. And they go out and recruit chapter members for the committee, and then that way we can, you get folks interested that way, and then you start, once you get folks cycling off the board, then you start pulling the folks who've been working on the committees, you try to get them to come on the board. And, like with most places, people aren't going to just up and volunteer, ooh, I want to be president. You'd think they're crazy. I've just lost my train of thought there, though.
Mark, I have a question for you. Do you make those the heads of those committees part of your board of directors, or are they separate from your board?
No, each committee is chaired by a board member.
Okay.
So, and we've got 3 standing committees and 2 ad hoc committees, which our board meeting tomorrow, I'm going to recommend that we move our ad hoc committees into full-fledged, board level permanent committees.
Hey, Mark, a question that came through the chat is what committees do you have within your chapter?
Let's see if I can pull this off the top of my head here. Finance committee, which really is basically the treasurer. We've got communications and marketing. That's both together. Programs. Let's see. And membership. Those are our standing committees right now. And we have our 2 ad hoc committees we do a biannual, is that every other year. We do a conference, and we call it a regional conference, but I think with following GPA's, kind of definitions, we're a local conference, even though we market to, 5 states around Kansas City. So we've got our conference committee, and then we also have a scholarship committee, because as a chapter, we provide scholarship for chapter members to pay for conference registration fee. So we do that every year, and so that we're going to pull that group, I think, become a standing committee since it is every year. And that's all we've got right now.
This is Barb. Just to add to what Mark said when he first got on the phone, each chapter does have a private page on the GPA website where you can upload your documents. So if you have any questions about that, send an email to staff@grantprofessionals.org, and Kelly or I will help you guys out with that.
Terrific. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm going to hand this over to Lori.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Jody. And hi, everyone. I'm hoping most of you at least know my name. I'm Lori Booth. I'm in addition to the Region 1 and Region 2 representative, I'm also the Global Grants Manager for the Surfrider Foundation. And I've been a GPA member since, I was trying to think, I know 2009 was my first national conference, and that was like the oh my gosh, there's a tribe here that exists, and that was my moment. And I've been involved ever since, and I've been the regional rep for Region 2 since the beginning when we first started the regional rep structure. Brought Region 1 on just in the last, I guess, year or so. So I'm covering that to the best of my ability until we do find someone who can focus on that region. And you can see on the map there the regional breakdown. Region 1 is the 6 states of the Northwest and Alaska, and Region 2 are the 10 states in the Upper Midwest or Great Lakes region. So that's a little bit about me, and the topic that we'll be facilitating over the next 10 minutes or so is programming, or how to build a better meeting. And when we were talking about planning, or talking about this call and planning what the topics would be, we kind of talked about the fact that programming is more than just like the topic in a chapter meeting. It's about this, the structure of the meeting, kind of the logistics of it, and really how do you get really productive, effective, relevant meetings for membership. And I think one of the things that I've really learned as I've gone around to the chapter meetings in my regions and kind of seen what works is, as Gayla mentioned in the start of the call, there really is no magic formula. It's kind of an experiment from chapter to chapter, especially, with the new chapters, of course, to figure out, try a few things and see what works and see what really does attract more members and keeps them coming back. So some of the things that I have seen are, some chapters do 4 meetings a year, kind of on a quarterly basis, and that works for them. And yet there are some chapters, maybe because of the placement of membership or the concentration of membership in certain areas, mainly urban centers, they're able to do like monthly meetings. And, they get into a rhythm with that, and that works for them. So I'm interested in hearing about some of the things that have worked for chapters, the chapters who are represented on the call today, either, even if it's something that works for you or on the other side of the coin, something that you've been struggling with when it comes to your meetings and the programming around them. So anybody want to pipe in with any thoughts?
This is Heather. Funders panels are always successful, and they pull in a lot of non-members, so that's a great opportunity to get new members.
Excellent observation. I too have seen that in the chapters. Anyone else?
Hello, this is Scott Williams from Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, one of the things that we're doing 12 program meetings a year on average. It's been pretty difficult, but very rewarding. We did our 10-year evaluation of our chapter in January, and everybody said programming. They love it. But to get folks engaged, to help recruit and organize and put on programs has been a challenge for us. We're working on that, and it should be successful through developing committees to help with the officers to do that. I did want to share one thing related to Lori's comment about outreach to non-members. What you'll find sometimes in our larger urban areas are these top 50 nonprofit lists. There's some commercial businesses out there that produce business news and top 50 list for all the banks, et cetera. And that's been, I think, a real interesting area where I've tried to work in terms of monitoring where we can reach out and find emails of people working on grants in our largest nonprofits in these large urban areas using those top 50 lists.
Great suggestion. Thanks, Scott.
This is Robin. One of the things that we've done to sort of give some structure to our program meetings is that we've taken the 8 competencies and tried to say, let's try to do something related to each of the 8 competencies each year. And so we've done different programs around different aspects of those competencies, but it's been really helpful to pull in a variety of different things. And then we've also done the funder panels, which everybody else has already confirmed are probably the best attended.
Excellent.
Lori,
do you find
go
ahead.
Lori,
No,
this
please.
is Barb. We came in through the chat box. Stacy Smith from Southeast Texas said that they do member surveys to find out interest, evaluate attendance, and what programs have a greater draw. And then they also have a programming meeting where the members create the programming ideas. And then this year they have linked all of their programs to the GPC competencies.
Great to hear the reinforcement of the competencies. I know that's been a popular way to structure at least the conversation around planning for whether it's the coming year or beyond for many of the chapters with the programming. Any other thoughts? Well, I have a question then. I know one of the things that I've heard from several chapters in my regions is does GPA at the national level or a regional level offer like a speakers bureau or a list of resources that chapters can draw upon for bringing people in to talk or whatever? And I'm just curious, do you have any thoughts, those of you on the call, do you have any thoughts? Would that be helpful to you? Is that something you would draw from when planning your meeting schedule?
There was a great big yes on the chat box.
All right, great. I guess I just, I hear it. Like I said, I've heard it now from several chapters, and just trying to, build up some momentum or some support for that idea. And, I think from here we can certainly start thinking about what it would take to put that together and, see how it goes. And maybe it's a way to get suggestions and resources from the chapters who have, if you have had some particularly successful meetings, and if the speakers that you do bring in are interested in doing more of that, perhaps that's a way to, continue to share the lessons that we're all learning together and the successes that we're all having. So thank you very much.
And Lori, before you finish, the Hudson Mohawk chapter have used national GPA conference presenters for speaker ideas, trying to get people who are near them to come to save on travel costs, but they definitely would like another list as well. And that chapter is located in New York.
Got it. Thank you. All right, and I will move on to, or hand it over to Lisa, who's going to cover recruitment.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to apologize in advance. I have a terrific allergy problem right now, so my voice is like in the cellar. But I moved to D.C. about a year and a half ago. Around the same time, I became a regional rep. And trying to get acclimated to a whole different set of allergens from the ones in South Florida has been pretty much my main objective. But I'm glad to be here with you and to talk a bit about engaging people from different backgrounds. One of the great benefits of working where I work, which is the Alexander Graham Bell Association for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, is that we are an association, and I have the delightful task of working with chapters. So the same kinds of challenges that we're finding in GPA are the same kinds of challenges that AG Bell is experiencing. So I get the benefit of learning things twice, testing things twice, and making decisions that work best for people who have different geographic aspects. And that's really a great benefit. One of the other benefits that I've been able to experience is coming from South Florida, where Miami, you may know, has the largest number of foreign-born residents in the world. I really had to learn how to deal with people from all different kinds of cultures, and was there for 25 years. Loved every second of it, and it was only one fantastic job that drew me out of Miami. But having done that, I had to learn how to deal with different points of view, to listen from a different point of view, and to help people understand what they could contribute to an organization. So it's really been a great exercise for me in learning how people texture their presentation or their perception of what's going on based not only on the background that they come from, but their experience, not only in business but in life. And so obviously no one size fits all. We've heard that a couple of times today, but it's not just geographically, it's also culturally. So we need to look at people from a different point of view. Last year when Cynthia DeMoore delivered the Chapter Leaders Workshop, and I understand she's going to do that again this year, which is exciting, one of the things that Cynthia brought out to us is that people come to chapter meetings and chapter activities for different reasons. Some are there because of the programming, some are there because they want to meet people who share an interest or folks with whom they can build collaboration. And others are there because they believe in the cause and they want to be part of helping to advance the profession. So the work that we do needs to be textured that way. So this part of our experience today is basically to ask, how are you looking at your members in a different way? I can just say one word that's going to make you think a little differently, and that word is millennial. And that will probably, I know in my house it makes me think a different way, but I'm thinking too that you may find that it's a different experience to try and recruit millennials than it is to recruit folks who are, say, in their 40s, which is more typical of an association member. So I thought we might start off by just telling some of our experiences about the difference between recruiting folks who are, let's say they're 15 or 20 years into the career, and those who are maybe 2 or 5. I know you all have something to say.
This is Gayla, and I have to do a shout out for Southeast Texas, and just how they kind of organize their meetings and how they try to engage, anyone in the meeting who's new to the meeting, introducing them, making sure they're introduced to other people, the way they talk about how we can support them, as part of the meeting. So I think that's been kind of a way. Plus, they also offer happy hours at a charity restaurant that does, that offers that you can actually contribute, and part of the proceeds go to an organization that you can choose. We have an actual restaurant that's designed that way. So they offer opportunities for all different types of people besides the programming and everything. So I just put a shout out for them.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Someone else want to share?
This is Stacy. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gayla. I wanted to say, too, in order to kind of reach out to new people as well, I send out alerts, like if I get a job announcement or something. And so I try to help people that are new or maybe looking for a job in the area, let them know what positions are open in our Houston area. And then some of our members also help in a mentoring capacity, and so just kind of on their own, on the side, they'll kind of communicate and help that new person, and so I'm real proud of them for doing that as well.
I think you hit a nail on the head there. I was going to ask who uses the mentoring program, if anybody has formalized it.
I'm sorry, Lisa, did you just ask if anybody has a formal mentoring program? This is Heather. And
hey, Heather.
I know that we've talked about it a lot at our local chapter, and so I'd be interested to see who has something formal.
This is Robin. Cincinnati just launched our inaugural class of mentor-mentee relationships. We have 7 pairs, and the local AFP chapter has had a mentoring program for a while, and we basically had the AFP coordinator for that mentoring program come and do one of our meetings and talk about the advantages of mentoring and on both sides, and how he goes about making it happen, and what the logistics are and all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of modeled it after that. So stay tuned. We're not sure how it's all going to turn out, but we've been talking about it too for a long time, and this year we said, okay, we're going to do it. So we have a coordinator that is keeping track of who's with whom, and sending out, encouraging messages periodically and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, this is Roxanne in Kansas City. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm on. Okay, great. I didn't know if I was still muted. We don't have anything as formal yet as a mentoring program, and I'm the membership chair for Kansas City. It's Mark's chapter, Heart of America. But our membership committee has come up with a concept called the GPA Buddy System, and it's really just when a new member comes on board, one of our members, probably will start with our committee members, will call them up just see how they're doing, see if they plan to come to the meeting, if they have any questions, particularly about any of the programs or activities that we're planning, and just kind of keep in touch with them. We don't really plan to get involved as far as mentoring them on grant writing techniques or anything like that, but just to be a buddy, introduce them to people at the meetings and other activities and see how that goes along. We really haven't launched it full force yet, but those of us who know about the concept, mainly our committee members, have been trying to soft start it, give it a soft start. So we just call it a buddy system.
I think that's a great idea. It's very, that first time you come to a meeting and you don't know anybody in the room, this is a great way to get around that because you're looking out for each other. That's a nice way to welcome. Is anyone else using that kind of, maybe it's not a mentoring program, maybe it's a welcoming program? Nothing special on that side? I know for me, when I was organizing the Miami chapter in Florida, one of my goals was to make sure I not only wrote an email to every new name on my membership list, but made the phone call and verified whether or not they were coming to that meeting, so I could be there and be responsible to them. So I think that's a great use of it. There's also a question of how we use community organizations. The model from AFP on how to mentor, that's wonderful use of a community organization. But there's other ways, too, to reach out and to try and engage new members, like maybe through a United Way or a community foundation. Is anybody using organizations in their area to do that?
Again, in Kansas City, what we're trying to do is reach out to organizations that we know have grant writers, but they're not members of GPA or our chapter. So we're trying to go through lists and send them, an informal invitation to join and direct them first to our website so they get to know a little bit about the organization and direct them to a chapter meeting. One thing that we do in Kansas City, their first, I'm sure many of you do the same, the first meeting that they attend before they join is free, and then any subsequent meeting is $10. So at least they'll get a chance to see if it's something they really think they'll benefit from.
Very nice.
This is Shannon from South Florida. I had a question. How do you, because in order for them to be a member of your local chapter, they have to be a member of the national GPA. So how do you, reaching out to your local agencies or, organizations, how do you get them to commit, I guess I should say, for lack of better words, to join national so they can join your chapter?
Any suggestions?
I'd like to answer that. This is Scott Williams in Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, Scott.
Yes. Hi. Again, Business First is our source here for Central Ohio in terms of the largest 50 nonprofits. And what we do is we have a spreadsheet where we have been able to keep track of attendance at our meetings over years, many years now. And there's such turnover in our field, like in development, that it is hard to reach out to nonprofits, the larger ones that we want to target, who generally have the people that will most likely join GPA because of this turnover. And we're just simply lining up the top 50 nonprofits against who's attending our meetings and seeing where the gaps are and doing cold calls to those nonprofits, finding out who in the development office or if they have a grant writer might be interested in getting on our email list when we announce our monthly meetings. And usually there's one or two people that are very interested, and we start sending them emails and hope that they show up, and then engage them to maybe become members someday.
So they're able to attend your meetings even if they're not as non-members.
Right. We charge $10 for non-members to attend our meetings.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, I don't know if others have this, but our chapter in Columbus, Ohio has 35 members at the moment, and in our email contact list, we have about 240 people that we're reaching out to.
That's great. Y'all know that there's some language on the GPA website to help you under membership, talk about what membership includes and the kinds of access that you get at the national level versus what you get at the local level. Not that I'm denigrating the local level, it's very great. And it's also helpful to learn about what's going on in your own community, but GPA has prepared some information for you, so I encourage you to look at the membership page and look at those benefits.
I have a question. This is Ann in Charleston, and it very much sounds like we're trying to cover too much territory and covering the state, but we're not there yet as far as having different associations in each of our major cities or something like that. Is there a strategic plan on, is the 2014 GPA strategic plan up to date on the website? That's kind of where we're going to start with getting going. Is we've done a membership survey. One of the things that people responded that they most wanted was networking. Second is programming, and so we will incorporate that as we go forward with the strategic plan. But we wanted to make sure that any strategic plan that we come up with is in line with what the National Association's strategic plan is.
Barb, do you know if that's published on the website?
There is one on the website. It's from 2014.
And that is the current strategic plan.
Great. Has anybody else done that, worked with the strategic plan, or is it better to work with the 8 focus areas?
This is Lori. I do know I believe it is the Greater Cleveland chapter did a strategic planning exercise that at the time the national strategic plan was not formally released, I don't think. But, the themes were pretty consistent, and they used those, the goals that they set out for their chapters, such as increasing membership or increasing exposure, being involved in the community. They use those points to then develop programming and schedule throughout the year. And I don't know if anybody from that chapter is on the call, but I'd love to hear, if you have some experience to share directly from the horse's mouth, as they say, rather than kind of me retelling it. But I do know it seemed from my perspective that it was a great it was a good process. It got the chapter leadership involved and aligned.
That sounds. And I'm sorry, what chapter was that? Which chapter?
The Greater Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. Great. That's what we're looking for. Is just a jump start to get us going again.
Yeah,
so thank
I think
you.
The way that worked, they had a series of I believe it was 3 meetings, perhaps 4, where one, actually I was involved in facilitating that to kind of get it started, and then they took it from there. Actually, I didn't play much of a role in terms of content at all. They took it, got it started, and really, then developed the plan for the coming year, and it's working.
That sounds great. And again, does anybody have any suggestions for breaking down a statewide chapter to make it more, especially when you've had feedback from your members that they want networking, and yet, we're 2 hours apart?
Heather, this is Stacy. Can y'all hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I worked in Aldine ISD here in North Houston, and one thing that we added it's a program called Life Size, and you can use it for face-to-face webinars. And so, if the other people on the call have a camera, then you can actually see the other people, and you can have that networking experience and not have to be in the same location. And it's something that we just got. I haven't had a chance to really utilize it yet, but I'm working on it. But I thought if maybe you all had access to a system where you could do some social networking through the internet like that, that might be a way of overcoming that distance.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because we're thinking if we can have people still gather into, like in Columbia, which is our capital city, and then Charleston, and then do a teleconferencing type meeting for the business part and then have a social part, then we qualify for having our meetings, and people also get that networking factor, because virtual networking just isn't as much fun. So,
yeah.
But I'll look into that. Life Size?
Yeah, it's called Life Size.
Great, thank you.
It almost sounds like a diet plan, but that's not really what it is. But we just got it. So and it's a like a internet-based system, and so you can access it from your phone. So if I'm away from the office, I can still connect with other people through my phone.
Wow, that sounds terrific. Thanks.
Yeah.
This is Shannon, and again in South Florida, we utilize WebEx for our meetings. We're in South Florida, so I'm actually on the west coast of Florida. Majority of the chapters on the east coast of Florida, but we utilize WebEx for our meetings. I know that networking has been a struggle because, as like you had indicated, people are coming from, could be a couple hours away. Or, if you know anything about Miami traffic, you could be a couple miles away and still be a couple hours away. So we have struggled with that and trying to find the opportune time to have networking and places, to have them. So we struggle with that as well. But we utilize WebEx for our monthly meetings.
Okay, great. Thanks. We talked to Jody about that when she was here. So.
Anyone else?
Lisa,
Go ahead.
There was a couple of questions that came over in the chat box. Part of them have been answered, and one of them was how do you talk about membership fees? And Tracy Martin, not knowing that was even in there, had a great response with the Hudson Mohawk chapter, that they stress the value of our membership benefits. The free webinars and free access to Grant Station are two of our biggest selling points to make it easy for people to see the savings that are available to them to become not only chapter members but also having to become a professional or at the national member level. But they also charge a higher amount for their non-members to attend sessions, and they try to make the differential high enough that they actually show that the membership value is clear.
I've used that tactic too. And in fact, for regional conferencing, if the difference between the fee for members and the fee for non-members is significant, it's surprising how many people become members. That's always a good justification. I'm going to get X, Y, and Z for free if I just pay for this national membership, which, by the way, is definitely a savings just with Grant Station alone.
And another selling point, too, is don't forget that we do have different levels of membership. So if somebody is new to the profession, they can join at a lower rate than the professional level. And then also if they're taking classes, we offer the student rate. So there's different values to the membership as well.
Great point. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
Sure. This is Scott Williams again from Columbus, Ohio. We've finally just established a member relations marketing committee for our chapter, and one of the things that they want to do is at the beginning of each meeting when we have a speaker or presentation, they're going to take just a couple minutes to market GPA in front of the entire audience, talking about one benefit in particular. So that was just one thing that we recently decided.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, looking at the time.
At least one other thing that came across in chat was back to the visibility and organizations. The Southeast Texas chapter has their monthly meetings at the United Way, so it helps to create visibility for their chapter across the board there.
And piggybacking on that, this is Arthur in Portland. We've done a couple of things working with a kind of sister organization that's much larger, Willamette Valley Development Officers. So last year we did an small event together, and we also gave away our national and local GPA membership by having people write an essay, and we got to send that out through several local fundraising professional organizations mail list, and because it was free, they all featured it. This year we got to produce our first local, or we call it regional, GPA conference, and we partnered with Willamette Valley Development Officers. They've been moving out of grants and really just focusing on more direct fundraising. So they've wanted to have a grants partner, but they have a far larger reach. We got a lot of new people out and had 5 brand new people show up at our next chapter meeting.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to pass this on to Heather, who's going to close up the meeting for us. And thanks so much for all these great suggestions.
Okay, thank you. This is Heather Patel, and I'm in Arizona. And actually my region is Region 4, which is Hawaii, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. But I just want to make sure that everyone on the call is seeing why we're here, who we are, the regional reps, what we do, and we want to make sure that this continues. So to really, we covered a couple topics here, the succession, programming, and recruitment. And so we want to grow the chapters. We want to start new chapters. We want to make sure that through this whole process that we are retaining members and sharing ideas and just discussing what the issues are and the problems, because undoubtedly other chapters have the same problems. So if we're sharing this information with each other, then we can all grow as chapters and as a national organization, which I believe everybody wants. So we're here for everyone, all the chapters, all the members, all the boards. We're here to help be that sounding board, to help share those ideas. And so I guess we kind of want to understand or see if people are interested in continuing with these specific type of calls with the regional reps. I know that National does these leadership calls all the time, so I don't know if it's something that would be separate, if it's something that would be more on a regional level, or if we want to, continue to do it nationally, because obviously, chapters from across the country are doing great things, so we want to share that too. So if anybody has a preference or ideas on how we can continue to keep these conversations going, maybe are there other topics that we want to talk about, but we want to make sure that everybody knows that we are here to continue this, and we want to help. So does anyone have any extra questions, anything that they want to talk about that wasn't covered today? So I guess I'm opening it up.
This is Robin. I think it would be interesting for the regional rep to maybe have a separate time that's just for that region, because so that we can get to know maybe better the other chapters that are in our region and get to know our regional rep better.
Okay, great. Anyone else? And certainly I'm quite sure Barb will be able to help us schedule that or arrange that, or even, the reps, I guess, could reach out to each of the chapter presidents and try and figure that out and see if there's an appropriate time that we can do that. So we'll talk about that some more and figure out how we can make this work. And I think that we do have actually some things planned for the regional reps, hopefully, for the national conference coming up in November. A little plug. So that's another opportunity certainly for people to get to know who we are and what we can do. So anybody else have any questions, comments?
Heather, this came over in the questions. There's two things for you. One that says let's have conference calls once per year with all the regional reps and chapters, and then 1 or 2 times per year in each region. So a suggestion there.
Okay.
And then the second one, this is a question that kind of relates back earlier to programming that came over that said, I'd like to hear from other chapters whether they hold their business meetings and programs together or separate the two. We currently combine these, but I find that most people are not very interested in the business meeting.
Okay, well, I can certainly speak on what we do here at my local chapter is that we do have we have them separate. So we certainly, I kind of agree with what that question was, is that there's a lot of people who are not members that I think we would drown them out and bore them and they wouldn't want to come back. So we try and keep our educational workshops separate from the business stuff, which to some extent helps with having more meetings to increase the visibility and shows that we're more active by having those extra meetings. So that's kind of what we do. Anyone else?
Southeast Texas said we have our program at the beginning of the meeting and then the business at the end.
Okay, so I think unless any one of the other reps have anything to add, I'm thinking we're right on the dot, and we did a wonderful job. Woohoo!
Yeah, great.
All right.
I would agree. So this is Barb again. I would like to thank our regional reps for hosting today's call for us. I just brought up a slide that has contact information for each of them. And please do not hesitate to reach to these gals. They are there to help you and want to help you. So reach out to them, or if you reach out to us here in the office, we will make sure to connect you with them.